Hello, everybody. I want to talk a little bit about the posting trot today. I want to talk about why we're posting, how and when. And I'm here with Spidey today. We're just walking a little bit, and as usual, we're getting ready to go into our posting trot warm up. And I always say, you have to always consider the walk warm up before you go into the posting trot. And at least I want to say 15 minutes walking on the long rein, some of it perhaps with a little bit of a rein contact. Sometimes you want to, maybe incorporate some lateral work. But this is just so important to me that you don't ever want to just get on your horse and jump right back into your posting trot. So that's just my little preamble for before we get started in all seriousness and with a lot of fun, I hope, with the posting trot. So the posting trot is a tool for the rider to decrease the impact that he or she has on their horse's weight when they're trotting first. And it's nice when you think about, the muscle groups on the horse and our own muscles too, that they need a decent amount of warming up and, oxygenation before anybody can actually really work and do something a little bit more complicated or complex with them. And even just, a good trot, sitting trot or posting trot can be a very complex task. So what you want to do is you want to think about, how am I going to rise? Number one, how, meaning how am I going to use my legs and my knees and my seat and my upper body, where I'm looking, my arms, my hands, all those things. And I'll go over that once we're in motion. And then when are we posting? Well, when as a posting trot warm up, for example, you may have a pattern in your mind, or just write some random large linear patterns in the posting trot. And you can also break it up when you're in your working phase after the warm up. In the center of your session timeline, you may interrupt some of your more heavy duty and more collected work with a little bit of posting trot. It's always a nice refresher for the horse, also in a more stretchy, longer frame. And the other part of the when is, when are we actually rising in the posting trot, right? And for a lot of riders, that's a hit or miss kind of questions, especially when you're in the beginning of things. And of course, as a rule of thumb, we always hear this: when the outside shoulder swings forward, the rider's weight should be up and away from the saddle, right? But why is that? So I want you to visualize for a moment, and I'll write it for you in a second, but I can talk better in the walk than in the trot. The trot is a two beat, meaning that the two diagonal pairs of legs are in motion for each stride, right? So the inside hind leg swings forward when the outside left, let's say in this case, right hind leg swings forward when the left swings forward, and the other way around, the right shoulder and right leg swings forward in synchronicity with the left hind leg, right? So every time the hind leg that pushes off the ground needs to lift up the whole horse, that's of course the time, especially when you're on a circular shape, when we as the rider don't want to add to that weight, right? And that's why when you think about, let's say you're riding on a big 20-meter circle to the right, you're looking at the left shoulder, meaning the left front leg comes forward, and the right hind leg, the inside hind leg, comes forward. And that's exactly the moment when you are in the air with your body and with your behind. And the other way around, when you're sitting down, is when that right hind leg is actually hitting the ground and pushing back off into the next stride, in the next suspension phase. And so, in other words, to make a complicated sounding little lecture here a little bit simpler, you don't want to sit on the leg that hits the ground, that's on the inside on a curved line, because that is where the horse will have to take up the majority of the weight to stay in motion and to stay balanced, right? So watch that. I'm going to go and take Spidey here into the posting trot in a moment. Watch that. And then I want just to go over knee pressure and the pressure that you feel underneath the ball of your foot. As you're rising, you want to rise, I always say, half of your weight should be distributed from your stirrups and half of it should be elevated from your knee pressure. So that means that you have more control over with how much weight you come back into the saddle when you're sitting down, which is really important because the reason we're posting in the first place is to, decrease the impact that our weight has on the horse's back when we're coming and sitting down on their downward part of the motion phase, right? So if we don't have control, then that means we're just using the horse's forward, upward thrusting motion as, a propelling commodity, and then we're just going to let us slump back down into the saddle like a sack of potatoes if we don't keep that positive tension in our seat and in our legs. And that, of course, defeats the purpose. And I know I'm talking a lot here, but it's very, very important to remember that when you sit down as if you're kneeling down a little bit. Your knee pressure is on the saddle pads or the knee rolls. And you're sitting down. I always say, imagine your saddle is a bit of a hot plate. You don't want to touch it for too long, right? And you're not sitting down heavily and you're not coming up out of it really with a lot of force. So it's just a variation on the sitting trot where you're just coming out minimally and then you're sitting down minimally, and the rest of it is contained and supported by the positive tension that you carry and that you're using in increments as your horse moves on and off in conjunction with the rhythm of the trot, right? So lots of talk, and I'm going to go into it right now. I'm going to pick up my reins here. I'm going to go and say, come on, my little Spidey. Spidey has a little bit of a issue sometimes with the legs. Come on, we're going to go. Legs off. No big deal. You can see some of my other videos about that, why that is, and how we're fixing that over time. But here now we're in a posting trot, and I am largely on a maybe a little bit bigger than a 20-meter circle here in this big arena. And you can see when the outside shoulder swings forward and Spidey's outside front leg comes forward, his inside hind leg swings forward too. And that is when my butt is in the air. And hopefully not too high. And Spidey is a big mover. He has beautiful, wonderful, very swingy trot. And it would be very tempting to just as the rider, to let myself be just elevated by this beautiful swinging back that I'm meeting halfway when I come down. But I really, really make sure that I don't come out and thrust everything I have forward in my middle, right? So my upper body is a little bit forward. The upper body is also the angle of your upper body. It depends on a little bit of what kind of posting trot you want to ride. On a younger horse or in the beginning of a session, your upper body might be a little bit more forward. On a more developed horse, you can almost go completely beautifully straight up on your vertical. Shoulders back, look forward. Reaffirm every once in a while by looking down that you're still on the correct diagonal, right? And so here we go. And then I'm going to change through the center of the circle. I'm going to show you here. And as we're crossing the imaginary center line, we're going to sit twice and land on our new diagonal. Right now, the outside shoulder again lets me know that I don't sit down on the inside hind leg that needs to push off with ease and with enjoyment, especially on a horse that, like Spidey, who isn't always completely sure that, the forward is something fun and actually joyful. But we're getting there more and more. And I just want to, invite you just to watch this video, but watch each other, watch other riders, so that you school your eye, which in turn will school your mind's eye, so that when you're posting the trot on your horse, you're more and more conscious of what that actually needs to mean for the horse, right? So I'm going to change one more time here. Double sitting. And here we go again. And then I think that's a good introduction for a general understanding of the posting trot. There are many more articles and books written on all this very good and important stuff, but so much for today. I'm just going to let him go into the walk here. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have questions. And I wish you much success and happy riding. And thank you, Spidey. Thank you.